3 down, 2 to go.
2 left.
Nintendo's second biggest cock tease of all time is Nintendo
Earthbound
64 disc
64.
drive.
Did you just say Earthbound 64?
No, that's
Sir, I did.
that's number 1.
No.
That's number 1.
No, it's number 2.
Wait. Before we argue, let me be diplomatic. Shut your whore mouth.
Let's get a little more information about the topic before we make any sort of informed decision.
Yeah, I think we should consult a trustworthy expert.
Oh, hey kids! Let's talk about the Nintendo 64 disc drive. Oh, it's going to be fun, real fun. It's going to be a travel down the streams of history, like pages in a book if it was made into a stream. The Nintendo 64 disc drive was going to be revolutionary in every way. New cartridge system that used magnetic discs so you could read and write. They could hold 500 megabits and more. And it had an internal clock, and they could work as expansion packs for existing cartridges, which allowed for many new gameplay opportunities. However, many years of research and work simply made it not exactly feasible to release it to the whole world, as new projects were starting to come in anyways. So they canceled our favorite game, Earthbound 64. So beautiful, so great, so much better than Richie. So, Earthbound. They decided, why don't we bring it out on a cartridge? But then they thought, why don't we just not? And then years later they thought, well, why don't we bring it out on a Game Boy Advance cartridge? But only in Japan. Thanks, Nintendo. Thanks.
Let me explain more. With this graph of anguish, now it's not quite science, and it's not quite math, but it is both of them. Now you can see here, we have this 1 to 10 ranking of wanted, as reported by Nintendo Power, per issue they released. The black line is the Nintendo 64 disc drive, the green line is the Earthbound 64 line, and the red line represented the GameCube. Now you can notice that disc drive didn't always get number 1, but that's because it was up against Zelda Ocarina of Time, and that was much better anyway, so I don't blame them. And occasionally be offset by various Pokemons. Now, this sort of dwindled a bit, but that's because it originally got a spike because it got quite a bit of press coverage right here. But just because it wasn't in the top 10 didn't mean people still didn't want it, because 2 years after it disappeared in the issues I had, it reappeared on position 9, even when the GameCube was looming over the soon-to-die Nintendo 64.
Now, before we leave this graph of anguish, I would like to point out that after analyzing this data in a sophisticated trend-fitting program, I found that this graph is actually a function of kids not getting laid, multiplied by the constant of false hopes, and then offset by a bag of Cheetos.
Well, that was very informative, but we don't really have an agreement.
I say we let the people decide. And by people, we mean our friends.
We don't have many of them.
Dave, what is Nintendo's #1 biggest cock tease of all time?
Nintendo.
The Nintendo 64 disc drive, or Earthbound 64.
Ooh.
Those are both. I'm feeling the Nintendo disc drive. Most definitely.
Why? Why the Nintendo Disc Drive?
Because you want it, but you just can't have it. it's right out there. Like you could touch it, but you can't. So that yes.
All right, what is Nintendo's number one biggest cock tease? The Nintendo 64 disk drive or Earthbound 64?
Earthbound 64.
Why? Do you know what that is? No.
That's some good work, Farmer Waythorn.
Oh, thank you.
So, which do you think was a bigger disappointment? Nintendo 64 disk drive or Earthbound 64?
I would say definitely Earthbound 64.
Why would you say that?
Well, systems come and go, but Earthbound 64 is eternal. Except that we've never had it.
All right, so the votes are in. We have Earthbound 64, Earthbound 64, and the disk drive for number one biggest cock tease by Nintendo. We had some people not know what we were talking about, and we had one person go for Earthbound, and we had another person go for the disk drive because you could touch it, but you can't.
Deep.
Very deep. I do have some issues, actually some questions regarding the disk drive. The whole point of it was to have bigger games, capitalize on the limitations of the cartridge format. It could reach 512 megabits, but Nintendo's cartridges eventually reached that with certain games, and those games looked really good. Perfect Dark, for example. So, would those discs have eventually also gotten bigger? I don't know. I don't know if it was necessary.
One other thing is that what I really saw the disk drive doing, partially because of the naivety of myself at the time that this stuff was announced, was that I really saw the disk drive as the way for the Nintendo 64 to use its power, but also to compete with the scope of the massive games that the CDs could have just in terms of storage space versus the N64.
Yeah, compete with the PlayStation. Not so much the Saturn. We have here issue 92 of Nintendo Power. This is actually the first issue we have that mentions the disk drive. There were probably ones before that, but it's the first one we have. The title is 64DD Doomed. You know, he kind of says he's a huge Nintendo fan, but he's saying, I'm writing to voice my concern about the upcoming 64DD. After waiting through numerous delays for almost 2 years, I finally got my N64, only to find out that at the end of the month, the 64DD would be shown in Japan, and if I wanted to play the good games, I would have to shell out another $200 for a system add-on. Although, it could have been really damn cool. On the other hand, Earthbound would still have been good as a 256 or 512 megabit Nintendo cartridge. There's a trailer. Let me show it. It looks good. It's a little bit premature looking. It needs a little bit more developing, but it looks like it could have been a really good game. But is there a light at the end of this Cocktease tunnel? That is the question. Well, there is a light. Our friend is going to Japan in a few days, and he knows of a pawn shop that is selling the Nintendo 64 DD. So, I can't really cheers all these Cockteases, but I can certainly raise my bottle for the potential of having an N64 DD to a destroyed youth.
So, what did we eventually settle on as the number one cock tease of all time?
The Earthbound 64.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Nice touch right there. Oh yeah. Too hot for you too.
No one wants to get a cock tease. No one wants to whimper, please, please, for nothing.